Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy to be here because I have the chance to talk to you about one of my passions, which is mobility. I'm the president of Moleskine America, and I'm fortunate to be in this position and to have worked with this company for several years since the inception in the States. And what I do, I basically work with our product development team in Italy, and we design objects for contemporary nomads. So we're all familiar with this concept of movement, and you know, we have created our journals, and now we manufacture bags and pens. And so this opportunity and my job gives me the chance to really observe how these products and these objects that we design become part of who we are. So it's really related to our mobile identity. At the same time, my passion for mobility comes from the fact that I moved to the States 15 years ago, and I met one of the shiatsu masters in America called Ohashi, and I studied with him the concept of energy flow and movement. And so I ended up studying with him and graduating, and I'm now a certified practitioner. And what I've learned with this technique of basically moving the body and learning about the energy flow, the movement was really an embedded part of who I am as an individual. And since then, I've been keeping studying how the body moves. I have studied and I'm keep learning about the Alexander technique. I don't know if you know about it, but it's an educational process that teaches you how to get rid of your bad habits and teaches you how to find a realignment within yourself. But I know that since business school, I've been a traveler. And you know, I focus on traveling from one location to another. And I did my thesis dissertation of what made people, what made the travel meaningful for people, especially in business environments. So today, I decided to just break down this concept for you, mobility. I'm a runner. I coach in Central Park with the New York Runners. So I think of movement every day. So let's break down mobility in what I think are the major components from my perspective. Mobile body, health. So health is connected to our body. The way we move, how much we move, it's connected to how physically we feel and how strong we feel. I think that I'm fascinated about how mobility and the way we move can impact our personal lives, our organizations, and our communities. And so recently, I took a workshop in Central Park, and I met this guy. His name is Malcolm Bach, and he's an expert of body movement, and he really teach me how to run better. He's very tuned in the form, in how to bring the feet down to the ground. He projected me, he taped me, he made me notice my mistakes. But what he told me that was really fascinating for me was that nowadays we are creating different relationships with different objects that we carry. And he said, look around you. Actually, I was looking at you before the conference, and there was a nice group of people around the table that were interacting with different objects. And some of these objects was actually cell phones, electronic readers, books. And so there is this adaptation to the object that it's happening nowadays. And I feel that when Malcolm was talking to me about this, he said, think about how much stress and how much kind of physical adjustments we have to make with the tools that we were now used to use. Our body is the perfect form of, if you want, architecture and design. But I don't think we were made to interact with a monitor or to interact with our cell phones. So we are looking and we are interacting with these objects, and we need to really be careful to get out of this stress. So then I went home. I was very inspired by this conversation, And you know, I was particularly inspired because one of the questions that he had for me was the same question that I'm going to ask you all. How many of you sit more than 8 hours a day at work? Can you raise your hands? How many of you sit more than 6 hours a day? So a lot of you, the majority of you, are sitting more than 8 hours at work. And right now, even though you're sitting, you're moving a little bit. So I went back home, and I realized that sitting has so much bad press in the last couple of years. This is what our friends at Lifehacker says. Your risk of heart disease has increased by up to 64%. You're shaving off 7 years of quality life. You're also more at risk for certain type of cancer. Simply put, sitting is killing you. So what I did, I changed my life. And several months ago, I went back to the office, and I decided I'm getting rid of my desk. I'm getting rid of my chair. And now my goal is to sit maximum 1 hour a day. So it's interesting. I mean, when these sort of approaches and ideas come to mind, you know, a lot of questions come to me. And I'm like, OK, I'm going to show up at work. I have a very office, nice space in New York. But, you know, what is going to people think about that? And is there something good for them? And then selfishly, because I run, because I move, you know, I said, well, this will make me stronger. And so my legs will feel strong. You know, maybe I have an opportunity to stretch here and there when I train for my marathons. And so I said, OK, forget about my employees. Let me observe what changes this will bring. And what I noticed is that I felt strong. I mean, at the beginning, it was absolutely very difficult. After 3 days, I felt like I was running for hours. I was really tired. My legs were tired. And then I wanted to insist and feel stronger. And then the more I was going to this pattern, the more I was noticing a different sort of energy level in the office and in my work. And I felt I was readier with my projects. I felt that, in general, people were responding in a different way, and I wanted to crystallize it. And I said, but let me think, what is happening? So people now come into my office, and they're very focused. They ask me very quick questions, and I can answer very quickly. So there is a lot of interesting ideas floating in the office. I ask them, they feel they can sneak in with the flow of my work easier. And the level of productivity went up. So now, by standing and by introducing mobility in my daily life, I have impacted my organization. I have created an environment where actually imagination, creativity, sharing the way we work and rearranging the working space has changed. Now, when we have conference calls with our headquarters, we stand shoulder by shoulder and we look at a monitor. And it's a very interesting experience. So mobility, for me, is really related to how the body moves. And health is really a major factor into that. The second area of mobility is traveling. And mobile identity is related to the way we travel. This is a picture of my first sailing experience. It was beautiful. I felt, for the first time, that I was in control of what I think is really luxury today, which is time. I went on the boat. It was floating. There was no noise. I had the control of the boat, and the teacher was helping me to maneuver the boat. And I really felt like how travel used to be many, many, many years ago. You know, people were... I bet no one here today came by boat, correct? So many years ago, we would think about going from coast to coast or from here to overseas by boat. And what we used to do, probably we would carry a lot of stuff with us. You know, we would move from New York to London or vice versa. So there was a big project moving. Traveling was a very big moment of our life. And it lasted for many days. And then look what happened, the evolution of airlines. It becomes more affordable. Now we can travel the world. and we don't hesitate to go from here to New Delhi or to Tokyo or to Rome. It's easy. It becomes accessible. Anyone can do it. And so I'm thinking, the experience of traveling, how did it change me? And how is it impacting me? And then I stop even further and I think, okay, everyone wants to go farther away. They want to go faster. And then I think about digital travel. And that becomes even faster. So all of a sudden, I am connected with my computer, with my portable device, and in 1 second, I'm thrown somewhere completely different. So my experience of travel has changed. And my experience of travel is really related to the perception of seeing things, of imagining things, more than a physical act. Organization, change is mobile. How many of you know this woman? Her name is Catherine Switzer. She is photographed here with the number 261 in the Boston Marathon in 1967. At that time, the marathons were only a sport devoted to men. And she signed up. She is the first woman that actually signed up with her initial, so no one can really identify her gender, and she decided to run the marathon, despite the fact that they were not allowed to run. So what happens, there was a general kind of acceptance with the fact that there was a woman running with all these men in Boston, but what happened is that in a few miles into the race, the co-director that you can see there started to yell and scream and wanted to realize that she was a woman and wanted to push her out of the run. And she was lucky because she was running with her coach and boyfriend, and they had to body check him out. And eventually, she was realizing in that moment that there was a lot of press around it, that they were taping her. This moment was being documented. And so even if she wanted to stop, she could not stop. And so she finished. She ran the first Boston Marathon with 4 hours and 20 minutes. But what happened is, in 1972, women were allowed to run marathons. So I'm struck by this story because, for me, it identifies our small movement, like a woman deciding to participate in such an event, a symbolic movement, made a huge change and impacted an organization such as the Boston Association. At Moleskine, we practice what we call deep design. Deep design is intimately connected to mobility. We believe that mobility is really the gateway of designing projects, products, and services. And what do I mean by deep design is really this concept of satisfying more a human need for aesthetics, a human need for functionality, a human need for something that can stay with you for a long time. So when we mean deep design, we mean let's think about shapes and colors that can last forever. We mean let's design more with less. We mean let's design something that is not cheap and it is not only focused on instantaneity. Let's design something that is a container of ideas and experiences rather than something that is imposed to you. And we mean let's design a process and let's stay in the process rather than think about a product. So deep design is a practice that really takes into consideration mobility. We move. We're constantly thrown from one location to another. One of my passions is also I'm a biker, and I bike everywhere in the city. And it's funny because my bike is my status symbol now. It's not my car or my apartment. I am my bike. And so deep design for me is being able to design a lock that actually is an object of contemporary nomads like us. So design and the way we are driven by mobility, it's extremely important at Moleskine. So the takeaways that I have for you are, number one, Create things people trust. Practice deep design. People trust things that respond to their intangible values, to what they express themselves. It's not the more color, the more superficial characteristics. It's the intrinsic quality of really intangible values. And practicing deep design means consider that people move and that people need connection with things that are close to their body. I remember when there was, a few years ago, we introduced in our collection notebooks that had a soft cover. And I remember one of the conversation that we had was like, we need to create these notebooks because people are going to carry in the back pocket, and they're going to bike, and they're going to, want to physically feel the product attached to their body. So practice deep design. Think about mobility when you do create projects and products that you trust. Number 2, make a small move and have a big impact in your organization. It can be standing up. It can be sitting in a different way and interrelating with different people. It can be unlock the potential. Look at things in matters that you haven't looked at before. Go out for a walk with your employees. Look at your fans' mobile identity. Look at what they do. Look at how they aggregate. Look at the fact that if they do carry something that they love, they're going to talk about it. And that's how they're going to express themselves. Do something that you believe it's worth expressing yourself, because most likely there is going to be people that, like you, like it and will enjoy it. And last but not least, if you really want to be healthy, stand up. Thank you.